Last time out, however, at Mondello Park in Ireland, there was a shock as the young Norwegian Martin Iversen in his Ford Escort came home the winner.
That was very important for me and very much important for the team. We have had so much technical problems last year, so we have to improve that we could be on the top. So that was very important.
Will you now enter the whole of the championship?
That depends how it goes this day and this weekend. If it goes very good, I think we drive on Lydden and maybe the rest.
Pembrey's Rallycross circuit measures 1,500 metres in length, and Martin Iversen, our chauffeur, for a lap of the circuit. The first thing to do is to get a blinding start, which he does through the tight hairpin, and then foot to the floor. And that gives you that vicious slide as Martin Iversen powers away. Fast part of the circuit, this on the tarmac, and then he plunges off onto the loose. This part of the circuit, APS Alley, running on the inside of the racing circuit here at Pembrey, which hosts Formula 3 races, for example. Through the tight right-hander, and then back on the power. It's a fast circuit, it's also very dusty, but Martin Iversen in fine form here. Crashing his way across the loose section on the inside of the circuit, heading for the tarmac towards the end of the lap. He'll bounce back on just after Woodlands, and then blast down towards Honda Curve, through the right-hander, foot to the floor again, and up across the start and finish line, coming out of Honda Curve, once more down Park Straight. One of the stars so far this year of the Division 4 class has been this man, Mike Turpin, with a Vauxhall Nova, and he remains one of the men to beat here at Pembrey this weekend.
Well, we've just put a new 16-valve Corsa engine in it, well, you've only got it finished last night actually, so it's the first time I've driven it now this morning, and it does seem very good.
We've got the two top men in Division 4 for the up to 1650cc cars in this race, namely John Haffey and Mike Turpin, from whom we just heard. The grid formed up, the lights go green. Away from pole position is the Metro of Dave Ward. A slow start by Ian John, and that means that John Haffey comes around the outside. There's contact. That was Mike Turpin being hit by Paul Lee. Everybody gets crossed up ahead of John Haffey. He finds the gap and goes for it, but Dave Ward leads. No, he doesn't, because right alongside him and going through is John Haffey. And now Mike Turpin screams his way off the tarmac onto the loose, right up behind the Metro, and you can see how suddenly visibility disappears as the dust and stones are kicked up by the cars ahead. John Haffey leads. Who or what is going to emerge in second place? It's Turpin, because what has happened to Dave Ward? Dave Ward runs very, very wide in the dust. So too does Ian John. That's Trevor Gamble going through in 428 in his Ford Fiesta. So John Haffey leads, and Dave Ward dropping right down the order. We're on board with Mike Turpin. Look at him sawing away at the wheel there and setting off now in his pursuit, his very vigorous pursuit of John Haffey. Haffey, who won at Croft, he won at Lydden, he won at Nuts Corner, and now he leads this heat here at Pembrey in South Wales, although Mike Turpin is reeling him in. Turpin on the limit there. You can see half the rear screen missing after the contact at the first corner. Ian John about to lose out to Trevor Gamble in the Fiesta. Through he goes on the inside. And somewhere in all that dust is John Haffey. Mike Turpin trying to sort out a slide there. He's right on the tail of John Haffey, and you can see now just how difficult overtaking is. Back on the far, across the loose comes Mike Turpin, longing for the tarmac where that dust will disappear, and he can pick his moment to try and find a way past John Haffey. The two of them now bouncing their way back towards the tarmac and into the right-hander of Honda turn. There's no doubt about it, Mike Turpin is bringing the gap down. He's quicker going into Honda Curve there than John Haffey is. Haffey gets sideways, Turpin goes off onto the grass. He's off, he's back on again, the checkered flag at the ready, and John Haffey wins the first up to 1650cc heat from, in second place, Mike Turpin, and a close run thing it was at the end. And meanwhile, back in the paddock, a lot of work needed on some of the cars. Most significantly, the Ford Escort of the joint championship leader, Dermot Carnegie. He has had problems in practice. Who better than him to explain what happened?
When I was coming around the corner up there, the car just started to change gear itself, and an awful vibration came into it. So I think maybe the crankshaft is broken or something like that. So we're out of it now, I think.
No such dramas, though, for Will Gollop, the other man, as the joint championship leader prior to today's racing. Gollop ran away and hid in his first heat, Peugeot 306. It looked quick, it looked spectacular. Indeed, it was both, although Will Gollop unable to match the pace of this man. Martin Iversen, the Norwegian in the Glommer Pop Ford Escort Cosworth, a mighty 1.5 seconds faster than Will Gollop. And Iversen had the advantage of being up front and pulling away, leaving everybody else in his cloud of dust. And the dust remained a problem throughout the first round of heats, and indeed on into the second round. As Matt Osborne, with his Mini, discovered, in a cloud of dust unsighted, he thundered off into the tyres and did a great deal of damage to his Mini. The story of Division 1 in the second round of heats was rather similar to in the first round. Martin Iversen, the fastest man, particularly after this lightning getaway that we saw on board earlier on in the programme. With his foot hard down coming out of the hairpin, that vicious slide was the result. But once up front, Iversen had a clear circuit in front of him and set off to record his fastest time in the second round of heats. And with Dad Jan Arthur Iversen out of the next race and holding up Will Gollop, it meant that Martin Iversen was on target for pole position. Will Gollop struggling to get past Martin's dad. It took him a lap to do it, and even when he found a gap on the inside, life was far from easy. Jan Arthur Iversen delaying Will Gollop just enough to enable his lad to take pole position for the A final. This, the third round of heats, though, for the Division 5 cars. Barry Rogers and Mark Kay on the front row of the grid. Barry Rogers in the blue Mini, Mark Kay in the green and white car. The lights go to green. Paul Hebden there from the second row of the grid, tucking in third place. Remember, Paul Hebden led in the first round of heats, only to drop back later on. And Barry Rogers it is who sets off towards the loose for the first time, already with a good lead. So Barry Rogers, with a clear circuit in front of him, he sets off across the loose at ATS Alley, heading for the tight right-hander. Brakes, changes down, sets the car up and understeers very wide. Up the bank he goes, and that's going to give the advantage to Mark Kay. Side by side briefly, but Mark Kay goes through into the lead. Paul Hebden there in third place, making his way now across the loose as Mark Kay leads, but gets very crossed up, so that gives the advantage back to Barry Rogers. The rest of the field coming through the dust cloud. Well, Mark Kay has managed to hang on to that lead, although he's now got Barry Rogers breathing right down his neck as they approach the hairpin then for the second time. Rogers hard on the brakes, the back wheels kick into the air, and Mark Kay rolls it! Mark Kay upside down in the middle of the hairpin, the rear wheel still spinning, and that, I'm afraid, is a case of KO. Meantime, we spoke to John Haffey about the competition in his class.
Yes, it's hotting up, especially today. Now Mike has a new 16-valve engine in, which gives him quite a bit more power than we do, but we'll still rely on our trusty old steed, and hopefully that'll take us through to victory at the end of the year.
John Haffey was the fastest man in Division 4 in the first round of heats. The man alongside him there in the yellow Nova, Mike Turpin, was fastest in the second round of heats. The lights go green, a bit of pushing and shoving as we saw earlier on in the day. Then Trevor Gamble arrives on the scene and heads into the door of Mike Turpin's car. It was a rather physical first corner. Up into third place there, the green Nova of Gordon Rogers, squeezing Gamble out onto the grass. Dave Ward's Metro there in fifth place, looking for a way through, as onto the loose for the first time goes Mike Turpin. Ahead of him is John Haffey. And there you can see the dust cloud being kicked up by Turpin's car. Turpin runs wide, blinded by the dust from John Haffey's car, up the grass and up the bank. There goes Gordon Rogers. Mike Turpin crash lands back onto earth. There's Rogers behind him. At the back of the field is still Trevor Gamble. And Mike Turpin still, I think, sorting out that moment. We saw him start a couple of corners ago. So John Haffey, relatively speaking, has quite an easy time of it now. Dave Ward has profited from the problems there. He's up into second place. And John Haffey bounces his way back onto the tarmac. I've got bits hanging off the back of Mike Turpin's car, ready to part company with a Nova at any possible second. It's a brake light, in fact, that's hanging down. And that brake light looking rather precarious now. Over the line goes John Haffey. There second is Dave Ward. And there is Mike Turpin's yellow Nova rocketing up the inside of the similar car of Gordon Rogers. He turns through. There's that brake light swinging around inside the car. And that's the last thing that Gordon Rogers wants to have to worry about, flying out and perhaps hitting his Nova. They're heading for the loose once again. You can see now just how much of a pounding Rallycross cars get. Half the rear shield is missing out of Mike Turpin's car from an accident on the opening corner of the first heat. The brake light still swinging around like a pendulum inside the car there, hypnotising Gordon Rogers, I think, possibly why he's not any closer. Across the loose, out of ATS Alley, they now go back towards the tarmac. So Mike Turpin up into third place, but still unable to do much about Dave Ward. Ward in second in the Metro, and still leading in his Vauxhall Nova is John Haffey. And there is Mike Turpin hard at work, up through the gears, back onto the tarmac, heading towards the right-hander of Honda Curve, as out of it. And up across the line goes John Haffey. One more lap to go for him, and now for second place, Mike Turpin dives through on the inside of Dave Ward in the ubiquitous Metro. That should give Mike Turpin the place, does it? Yes, it does. Mike Turpin through, and another nudge. A very second-hand looking Nova that's going to be by the end of the day. This time it's Dave Ward who clobbers him. Mike Turpin carries on though. Look, more of that rear windscreen's about to fall off if he's not careful. At least he's getting some ventilation into that car, but I don't think it's quite in the way he wanted it. Mike Turpin bounces his way across ATS Alley. I wonder whether the scrutineers may have a look at this car at the end of the race, because that brake light swinging around in there is certainly far from safe. Dave Ward with a tighter line there through the middle of ATS Alley, getting right back onto Turpin's tail as they come off the loose and now set off onto the tarmac. Approaching the right-hander of Honda Curve, Dave Ward right up behind Mike Turpin. Here, though, is the race leader, John Haffey, making his way up towards the start and finish line. The checkered flag at the ready, and John Haffey scores victory in the third round of heats for the Division 4 cars. Mike Turpin comes home second in what's left of his Vauxhall Nova, with Dave Ward third across the line. And at a rather more sedate pace, a look out of the back of Mike Turpin's car at Dave Ward. This, the third round of heats for the Division 1 cars. Away they go, Martin Iversen and Jan Arthur Iversen in the same lineup, both of them being able to block Will Gollop as they head to the first corner with the Ford Fiesta of Steve Munday. They're the blue Fiesta in third place. Towards us then for the first time, there is Martin Iversen. He was a second and a half faster than Gollop in the opening round of heats. Jan Arthur Iversen cannily there in second place, now holding up Will Gollop, allowing Martin Iversen to get away, assuming he gets on this corner safely, which he doesn't. Like so many drivers who have led at that corner, Martin Iversen makes a right mess of it and drops down into third place. Jan Arthur Iversen still has to hold up Will Gollop, but now to enable Martin to get back into the hunt. Through the dust cloud, through ATS Alley, the loose part of the circuit. A bit more tarmac at Pembrey than we see on some Rallycross circuits, and it's a very fast course indeed. They're back on the tarmac now, through Honda Curve. Jan Arthur Iversen, the Norwegian paper merchant, in the lead as Will Gollop dives for the inside, heading to the hairpin. He should be able to go through, but Iversen cuts across, closes the door, gets very sideways, the tyres beckon, wallop. Jan Arthur Iversen out of the race, and Will Gollop putting himself on the front row of the grid for his A final. These the Division 4 cars. John Haffey has had 3 wins this year, Mike Turpin has won twice, and a pair of them on the front row of the grid. They have been very evenly matched all day long, and that battle is set to continue now. The grid lined up ready to go, and away they do go. Better start by Mike Turpin than that of John Haffey, who seemed to go, stop, and then got bogged down when the lights went green, and that means he's being assaulted by all and sundry. Dave Ward spins, Gordon Rogers hits him head on. Oh dear. More battered hot hatches. So Mike Turpin getting the best of the starts. He leads then as the cars make their way across the loose for the first time. John Haffey chasing after him, but this is really going to make the title race in Division 4 wide open if Mike Turpin can win this one. John Haffey was saying earlier on how much hotter the competition is becoming in Division 4, and Mike Turpin, who's had quite a trying day with everyone driving into his little yellow Nova, leads the final. There in second place is John Haffey, and a huge gap between them and everybody else. Trevor Gamble there in third place with the new style Fiesta. Mike Coyne is fourth in the Escort, then Gordon Rogers, and then up behind him is Jamie Bird in the Vauxhall Corsa, and you can see that he was punted about at the start as well. The front balance hanging down on the left-hand corner of the car. Mike Turpin comes up to not the most energetically waved of checkered flags, but his third win of the season in the Division 4A final. John Haffey comes home second ahead of Gamble, Rogers, Dave Ward, and Mike Coyne in sixth. This is the Supercar A final. Will Gollop has had 3 A final wins. Martin Iversen has had 1. They're on the front row together, and Martin Iversen from pole position has the inside line as Will Gollop gets muscled out wide by the flamboyant Dennis Biggerstaff, and Biggerstaff moves through into second place in the Metro 6R4. Heading then to the loose for the first time, Martin Iversen, who was so much quicker than Gollop in the heats, certainly the first round when he was a second and a half faster than Will, leads at the moment. They're in second place. Dennis Biggerstaff, Will Gollop is third. How will Martin Iversen get around the tight corner in the middle of ATS Alley without any problems is the answer. John Maloney, however, gets sideways there in his Ford Escort, the Honda dealer, slipping down the order a little bit as a result. Here towards us then, for the first time, comes Martin Iversen, still being chased by Dennis Biggerstaff. And Dennis, in turn, trying to stave off the attack now of Will Gollop in the Peugeot 306. Right there behind him in third place. A wheel lifting Martin Iversen then comes through Honda Curve. Dennis Biggerstaff there in second place. Will Gollop runs very wide indeed onto the grass, back onto the tarmac, and heading now for the hairpin. Dennis Biggerstaff's car looking as though it was showing a bit of damage on the front right corner as it came down the straight, but the bonnet flapping away in the breeze, and I suspect that is what is giving that slightly curious look to the front of the car. Onto the loose for the second time. Gollop there right behind him in third. He's closing, but the closer he gets, so the more he struggles for visibility in all that dust. And John Maloney's Escort goes through with flames coming out from underneath. Running very wide there in the 6R4 is Ian Rowlands. And Will Gollop looks for the inside line midway through ATS Alley. Can't get past him there though. And John Maloney's car is getting even hotter. John's out of it okay. Lots of black smoke. You can see the flames inside the cockpit now. Where are the fire marshals? The red flag's out, but John Maloney's Escort is burning away quite merrily. And John Maloney trying to get the onboard extinguisher going. But where on earth are the marshals? Come on, he says. The car's on fire. The black smoke's a clue. So, a rerun A final. And Will Gollop makes an absolutely dreadful start. Will Gollop left standing as both Iversen and Dennis Biggerstaff rocket away from him. And now Will Gollop is left with an awful lot of work to do. He's down in third place once again. And that really was his second bite at the cherry. He has squandered it, and he's allowed Martin Iversen to absolutely vanish into the distance once again. So Will Gollop really has got to work very hard now and try and find a way past Dennis Biggerstaff before it's too late. He's got a tighter exit there from the right-hander. In fourth place is John Cross, fifth is Ian Rowlands, and we're on board now with Martin Iversen. He's being thrown around inside the Escort, but he doesn't look unduly concerned, does he? Hard at work inside the Escort Cosworth, Martin Iversen, who won the A final and the Super final last time out at Mondello Park. Looks as though he's going to win here today in very different conditions. It was rather wet and greasy at Mondello. It's lovely and dry and fast here at Pembrey. And Will Gollop now goes for second place on the inside line for the hairpin. Dennis Biggerstaff's trying to brave it out with him on the outside line, but it's not going to work. Will Gollop, with that tighter inside line, moves through into second place, and coming home in third is Biggerstaff. John Cross fourth ahead of Ian Rowlands, and Peter Faulkner in sixth. The super final then, the one that really matters. Points from the super finals determine the overall points positions in the Compomotive Wheels Rallycross Championship. Remember, Will Gollop and Dermot Carnegie lead it jointly at the moment. The lights go to green. Will Gollop, the only of those two joint championship leaders, still to be running after Carnegie's problems in practice. Gollop gives Iversen a tap. Gollop in turn gets clobbered by Dennis Biggerstaff, but at least this time Will is ahead of the Metro, unlike the A final where he struggled both times to get away from the line ahead of Dennis Biggerstaff. So let's see what Will Gollop can do now to try and catch up as John Haffey there gets rather crossed up. John Haffey's going off, is he? Still fighting a huge slide. John Haffey along with Mike Turpin, Division 4 drivers who have qualified. Mike Turpin electing not to start. John Haffey giving energetic chase there to one of the 6R4s. He runs out rather wide, and that has now spoilt Haffey's effort, but he's still on target for overall championship points. That's the main thing. Martin Iversen leading, but just look at all that dust he's kicking up into the face of Will Gollop. Will was saying earlier on in the day, you have two choices. You can either stay right on the tail of the car in front and try and overtake, but as you're in that dust cloud, you've got no chance of seeing anything. And if you lag back 30 yards or so you can see, you're too far back to attack for the lead. Let's see what Will Gollop does now to try and get ahead of Martin Iversen. And that's Dennis Biggerstaff. Dennis Biggerstaff pulling off, and Peter Faulkner's Metro and John Haffey's Nova have collided. Faulkner's 6R4 is left absolutely shattered. There's John Haffey, who's obviously been knocked about a bit in that accident. Let's hope he's okay.
Just down the straight and just to give a clatter or two out to the back of the engine, so nothing for it, don't need to stop. So that's it for another day. Another expensive weekend.
And an expensive weekend also for Peter Faulkner, possibly more expensive. Not much of his 6R4 left. There's John Haffey, thankfully looking a bit more happy now than he was when we saw him first out of the car. Peter Faulkner spun in the dust, and an unsighted John Haffey clobbered him. A mighty impact ensued. This, though, the restart of the super final, and at long last, Will Gollop has made a decent getaway. He leads at the hairpin. Martin Iversen down in second place, and they've only got John Cross this time for company. The earlier race really having taken its toll on the super final entries. So, Gollop versus Iversen, bouncing across the loose. Come on, says Iversen. Bang, bang, hits him, pushes Will Gollop into the corner. And somehow Will Gollop has managed to hang on to the Peugeot. And Martin Iversen possibly gets his just desserts. He runs wide into the dust cloud and the rubble on the outside of the road there. And as a result, drops back further from Will Gollop. Whatever happens now, though, Will is going to move into the lead of the championship with Dermot Carnegie not having taken part this weekend after dramas in qualifying. It really has been a miserable weekend for the Irish. I don't think of all the Irish cars that were here, one is left running now. They've all had an expensive and miserable weekend with either accident damage or mechanical problems being the result. And Will Gollop is now turning through the hairpin, the front of the car, looking a little bit battle-scarred after dramas earlier on in the day. Martin Iversen, the A final winner, now dropping a long way back in this super final. And it looks as though Will Gollop is going to make it a second super final win of the season, and in so doing give himself 20 points in the championship. He makes his way now across the loose through ATS Alley. Martin Iversen still on target for second place, and that's going to help him as well in the championship. That'll move him up into third place, having won the super final at Mondello Park. There he is, in second place in the Glommer Park Escort Cosworth. Too far back now to challenge Will, unless the former British champion has a problem. But that is a rare occurrence for Will Gollop. The Silkeline-backed Peugeot then of Whitstable Will bounces its way off the loose onto the tarmac then, heading through the right-hand Honda curve, and Will Gollop has made the restart look very easy indeed. Will Gollop crosses the line to win, with Martin Iversen there in second place, John Cross finishing in third, and just those three drivers take the restart for the super final. In the championship overall, Will Gollop now has a 20-point advantage over Dermot Carnegie, and Will Gollop, the new championship leader, celebrates in style at Pembrey.